So today I will talk about this use case and also about the use of Linkurious and Neo4j in the fight against financial crime. So let's get started. So first of all, a quick word of introduction about Linkurious. Linkurious is a graph visualization startup. We are based in Paris and we help customers around the world understand their connected data. Our main product is called Linkurious Enterprise. It's an enterprise-ready graph visualization application, which also comes with an API. Today, we have 200 plus customers, including NASA, the French Ministry of Finances, and various 500 companies, Fortune 500 companies, including banks and insurance companies. We are a neo-technology partner since 2013. So let's talk a little bit about what is a graph first. A graph is a set of nodes and edges, and here we can see that we have 3 nodes and 3 edges. So for example, the node on the bottom left is a person, and it's connected to a location, and we can see that both these nodes have properties. Specifically, the bottom left node has a name which is Seb, and the location node has a name which is Paris. So this is for a quick word of vocabulary before we get started. As I alluded to, Linkurious and Neo4j are very much used in the fight against financial crime. And the Panama Papers is just one example of this. And why is it so? Why are so many banks and insurance companies, or even tax authorities, using these technologies today to fight financial crime? There are a couple of reasons for that. The first one is that fraud detection and fighting financial crime revolves very much around spotting suspicious connections across multiple data sets. Here, for example, we are talking about fake identities, and we can identify that the client on the right shares a similar address and a similar phone number with another fraudster. So we can deduct from that our seemingly normal client on the right is probably also a fraudster. But similarly, in anti-money laundering, we are interested in money transfers between normal customers and people on watch lists or politically exposed persons. And here, for example, we can see that we have a number of persons, clients on the left, who are actually transferring money to other persons who are themselves transferring the money to a criminal. As a bank, I want to know this set of connections to be able to stop the transactions and avoid being indirectly in business with a non-criminal. Finally, in insider trading, we are also in dire need of understanding and spotting suspicious connections. Here, for example, we get an example of an insider trading case, and we have a trader who has traded the stock of a company where an employee works for, and that same employee has attended the same event as the trader. So that could be a cause for suspicion and a potential proof of insider trading. So in all these cases, we have financial crime, and using graph technologies like Linkurious helps spotting these crimes. But I will talk right now about our experience with the ICIJ. Working with ICIJ actually started for us with an investigation called SwissLeaks about 2 years ago, when ICIJ, an international consortium of journalists, reached out to us because they were interested in investigating data coming from HSBC, the Switzerland branch of HSBC, and they wanted, to investigate that data, and that led to a major investigation, which resulted in publications in various newspapers around the world. And throughout this process, they used Linkurious track about 100,000 customers and $100 billion, and were able to expose a number of criminals and also politically exposed persons. So this investigation happened, but a little bit after the news was published, ICIJ reached out again about another investigation, something which didn't have a code name, but that has now been recognized as the Panama Papers, and they wanted, to start a new investigation with new data, and once again they wanted to be able to use Linkurious in order to analyze that data and find interesting stories in the large data set that they were dealing with. So this is the Panama Papers investigation, and now I will talk a little bit about the story of the role Linkurious played in this investigation and the results. So the very beginning of this story is with a person called John Doe. That person reached out to journalists in a Süddeutsche Zeitung, a German newspaper, with a potential story. He had access to data coming from a company called Mossack Fonseca, which registered accounts, offshore accounts for various persons around the world. So this person, this John Doe, had access to this data and wanted to share them with the journalists. So here is an example of what the data looked like. It was very much a trove of different data sets of very valuable intelligence about the world of offshore banking. And here we can see on the top left an email. On the bottom left we can see a copy of a passport, and on the right we can see a certificate proving that a person owns certain shares. And these are some of the documents, some of the different types of documents that were involved in the Mossack Fonseca leak. So obviously it's quite complex to analyze that data coming in this sort of unstructured format, and very quickly the German newspaper figured out that it would be a massive challenge to undertake to analyze all that data. First of all, a little explanation about what we are talking about when we talk about offshore company. It's very important to understand that these offshore entities play a major role in obfuscating ownership structures and allowing financial crime, corruption, and drug trafficking. So here is a quick step on how to set up an offshore company to be able to benefit from complete secrecy for all your business dealings. So the Mossack Fonseca customers would contact lawyers around the world, not necessarily directly Mossack Fonseca, which is a firm situated in Panama. Could be someone around the corner in London or in New York, but also in Luxembourg. And these people in London, Luxembourg, or different financial centers would direct their client to Mossack Fonseca, which would then help set up an offshore company, and this offshore company could then do business around the world, and specifically open up bank accounts in offshore countries like Switzerland, for example. So this is the first step, creating an offshore company. The second step is to hide your identity behind nominees, and something very common among Mossack Fonseca customers was to hire administrators and shareholders who would appear on all the legal paperwork associated with the offshore company and would obfuscate the identity of the final owner, the actual customer really owning the offshore company. So this is the first step, and it provides an extra level of secrecy. The first step is to then divide assets between multiple companies. Once you have created that first company, you can then create another one and another one, and you can create a maze of companies owning each other to make it even more complex to understand what is going on and further remove your name from any sensitive documentation. An alternative is to create a Panamanian foundation, which is something that some of the Mossack Fonseca customers use to obfuscate their names and their identities. So this is a quick guide on how to hide money. Now let's talk a little bit more about the Panama Papers investigation. So first of all, it's by far the largest leak in history, as the chart on the left demonstrates. It's larger than the Offshore Leaks database, the Snowden NSA data, the WikiLeaks Cablegate, and the Pentagon Papers all together. We are talking about 11 million emails, PDFs, images, and scanned documents, but also one business registry, which is what was the focus of the ICIJ investigation. All of that details, explains, gives information about 214,000 offshore structures owned by 450 shareholders. This data was cleaned using a software called OpenRefine, and the leaked data was also augmented with various open sources. The first step that the ICIJ folks took to analyze the data was to turn the business registry as a graph. And to do that, they first devised a model, a graph model. The data was very tabular, but they wanted to project that into a graph. So they defined a few entities and a few key relationships. Here we can see this graph data model, and it includes a client which registered a company. That company is an officer of is linked to an officer, and the officer can also have a registered address, and we can see it here. And finally, the officer can also have a similar name address as another officer, indicating of a proximity between the two officers. So this was the graph data model that ICIJ used to extract insights from the Panama Papers. The second step was to then move the data from tabular format into a graph format, using this graph model as an objective and a goal. What the ICIJ did is that they imported the data into Neo4j, into a Neo4j graph database, and then they wanted to give their journalists, and we are talking about 370 journalists around the world, a way to intuitively extract, search, and explore the graph data. And for that, they used Linkurious Enterprise as a way to make the data available throughout the world to the journalists. So here is a very simple picture which explains the steps that ICIJ took to go from tabular data into a graph intelligence platform like Linkurious. So let me talk about what the Panama Papers investigation involved in terms of effort. So first of all, it was a very international investigation spanning across 80 countries around the world. It involved 378 journalists, 108 media organizations, including some of the biggest newspapers around the world. It also involved 9 months of an investigation, a few physical meetings in Washington and in Germany. And throughout all this process, there was two big challenges. The first one was security, and the ICIJ folks needed a way to give people around the world the ability to access the data, but in a secure way. And the second challenge was collaboration across a distributed workforce. These two important challenges were addressed by Linkurious Enterprise, which provides enterprise-grade security with authentication, access level management, but also HTTPS encryption, and also with the collaboration features included in Linkurious Enterprise, which make it possible for analysts to share insights and collaborate throughout investigations. It's important to know that the Panama Papers can now be downloaded online. If you go to the ICIJ website, you will be able to see the data set, but also to download it. I encourage you to do that. And after the webinar, you can also buy a Linkurious Enterprise copy to be able to visualize it. But let's see a demo of what it looks like for the Panama Papers investigators. So now I will start my copy of Linkurious Enterprise. Oops. So here is Linkurious Enterprise, and we can see the home page of the application. We are currently connected to the Panama Papers dataset, which is right here, and we can see a search bar right here. So we are going to use that search bar to search all data. So I'm going to type the name of someone called Boris Rotenberg, and I can type text. I can see the result changing in real time, even if I don't type the full name, as we use fuzzy matching to provide potential search results. We are going to click on the first result, Boris Rotenberg, and we are going to investigate Boris Rotenberg. First, let's talk a little bit about who this person is. We are talking about a Russian billionaire who is a close friend of Vladimir Putin, a person that he met during his childhood through judo and other sports. This childhood friendship has proved very beneficial, as when Vladimir Putin became Russia's premier, Boris Rotenberg quickly gained a lot of wealth through public contracts, including the contracts associated with the Sochi Games, Olympic Games. And we can see that Boris Rotenberg is indeed in the Panama Papers, which indicates that he was one of the Mossack Fonseca customers. So let's explore Boris Rotenberg and try to find out what are his connections and what are his assets. So we have done a quick search and found Boris Rotenberg. We can see a few information on the left, including his name, the fact that he's an officer, and the source of the data that we're currently looking at, which is the Panama Papers. What is going to be of interest for us here is the little 3, which appears next to Boris Rotenberg. This number indicates that Boris has 3 relationships with other entities in our dataset. So we want to find out what Boris is connected to. So we are going to double-click on Boris. Immediately, we have 3 new entities which are here. So the first one is Culloden Properties Limited. So this is one of the companies that Boris is connected to, and I can see a lot of information regarding this company. So it has an address, which is in London. It has a jurisdiction, which is the British Virgin Islands. It has incorporation date, and so on and so on. So I can see all of this information, and I can see that Boris has an owner of relationship with Culloden Properties, but Boris also has an owner of relationship with Canaric Overseas Limited. And once again, I can inspect that company, and I can finally also inspect Island Venture Group. What's interesting is that these companies seem to have new relationships of their own. So I'm going to double click on Island companies here. Okay, few more things have appeared. So we have immediately an intermediary, which is Markham Management Limited, which has appeared, and which seems to be connected with the three companies that Boris owns. So we can safely assume here that Boris went through Markham Management Limited to register all of his companies. And we can see that this is a company located in the United Kingdom, which provided to Boris the financial services needed to set up his companies. Let's keep on exploring. This time we are going to investigate Culloden Properties Limited. And we have some new information which appear. So once again, we can see that it's connected to Markham Nominees Limited. So we have a few Markham Nominees Limited now which appear on the screen. One here, another one here, and another one here. This is a problem of data integrity here, as the Panama Papers data contains some duplicates. And we can see that here, this Markham Management Limited here, this one and this one are probably one and only entity. What's interesting is that another Boris Rotenberg has appeared. So this is something of interest. We are going to be exploring that. But first, let's keep on exploring one of the first three companies, Canaric Overseas Limited. So I'm double clicking on it. And this time we have a lot more data which appears. So let's keep on exploring. I'm going to click on Boris this time. I can see that this Boris here is linked to an address. So we have uncovered an address. And if I turn on the geomap, I can see where the address is located. So it's somewhere in Russia. Okay, going back to the visualization now, and I'm going to select this company, this company, this company, and this company to expand them and see if they are connected to other entities. So I'm going to expand all of their relationships at once. And we have a few more things which appear. So here we have found a common address linked to some of the shareholders of Canaric Overseas Limited. So it sounds like Island Ventures Group Limited, Culloden Properties Limited, and Causeway Consulting Limited are all connected to this address here. Okay. And here we have found another officer, which is Igor Rotenberg and Boris Rotenberg. So this is we started with investigating Boris, but now we have found that with his brother is beneficiary owner of Canaric Overseas Limited. It just so happens that the Rotenberg Brothers have registered a flat in Moscow, in St. Petersburg as the address. And once again, we can display that on a map. So here is the flat in St. Petersburg. And we can zoom in to see where it's located. Okay. Going back to the visualization now, and that flat is linked to two other entities. So this is something of high interest because we want to know what this address is also connected to. So I'm going to double click, and we have I've added 2 more entities to the data. Okay, we have 2 more occurrences of Igor Rotenberg. So these occurrences are coming from a different file. We can assume, but as they share the same address, we are able to trace them back to Boris Rotenberg, with whom we started our investigation. So we started with Boris, and now we have found his brother Igor Rotenberg. We are going to double click, and we can see that Igor is controlling a company called Stormont Systems Limited, and this company is also has also been set up via Markov Management Limited. So we can deduct from that the Rotenberg Brothers have chosen the same company to do their financial advising. Okay. We are going to keep on expanding. This time we want to investigate the Island Ventures Group Limited. So I'm going to double click, and we have a few more things which appear. So the Island Ventures Group Limited is connected to this address here, which is in the British Virgin Islands. We can see that this address is connected to 813 other companies. So it's probably just a postal code and not an actual physical address used by the company. Okay. And we can investigate now these 3 new companies that we have added. So I'm going to select them all, choose to expand them. And we are adding some new data to the visualization. Here we can see that Rosport Overseas Limited is connected to an Adrian Gran, for example, who is also located in the United Kingdom. And it's definitely someone that we would want to further investigate. And here we have Mark Omelnitsky, who is connected to Causeway Consulting Limited. We also have an Arkady Rotenberg. So it's a new Rotenberg sibling who is connected to this company here. This company is connected to Moonlight Bay Limited, which is also connected to Island Ventures Group. So let's zoom out a little bit. We have started with this node here, which is Boris Rotenberg, a single person, but through all graphical investigation of the Panama Papers data, we have identified a number of entities that are connected to Boris, including some other business associates and companies. I'm going to click on design here, and if you want to see all the officers which are associated with Boris, I'm clicking on categories and then officer, and we can select all the officers and we can inspect them one by one. So there's a lot of Markov nominees, but there's also some Orbit Finance SA, Mark Omnelitsky, Arkady Rotenberg, Adrian Gran, and all these people could potentially be the subject of further investigation. Similarly, we have found 8 entities, and the list include Beechwood Associates Inc., Causeway Consulting Limited, Canrick Overseas Ltd, and so on and so on. So if, as a bank, I'm doing business with any of these entities, I need to know it because they are connected to the Rotenberg Brothers and potentially a source of risk for my company. And finally, we also have one single intermediary, which is Mark Ltd. It sounds like this company handled all the Rotenberg business, so it's definitely a potential source of information. And we have identified 5 addresses, which are across the world. We have one in Russia here, another one in Russia, this one in the British Virgin Islands, this one in the UK, in London specifically, and this one again in the British Virgin Islands. So it's very easy, as you can see, to go from a starting point to a clear understanding of how a certain person is connected to other entities, and then take actions from here. So I'm going to close this panel here, collapse this panel here, up, and now I'm going to perhaps save the visualization, give it a name. That investigation has now been saved. I can share the result of my investigation with a colleague. So let's say I'm working with John Doe, who is also the original leaker of the Panama Papers data. I'm adding him to the document as with read-only access, and now John is able to view the data that the visualization that we have just built together. I'm closing now. Okay. Zooming in a little bit, and I'm going to select these 2 nodes here and hide everything else. Sometimes in the course of a financial crime investigation, we know about folks, but we don't know how exactly they are connected. In this context, we can use Linkurious to find hidden links between people of interest. Here I'm going to click on Find, and I'm going to click on Paths, and I'm going to choose Arkady Rotenberg here and Boris Rotenberg here. I've selected these two nodes. I'm clicking on Find Those Paths, and I'm going to be able to view all these 2 persons are connected. It sounds that there are about 10 different paths between the 2 of them. I'm going to add them all to the visualization, and now I can see how Arkady Rotenberg here and Boris Rotenberg here are connected. In just a few seconds, we are able to understand if 2 persons are in contact or not, and very specifically, what are their connections. Here we can see that even though Boris and Arkady are not directly connected, they share the same management company, which is Marcom Nominees Ltd, and we can potentially detect from that they are actually in touch. Okay, I'm going to go back to my visualization now. If we want, we can also type cipher queries, which is the Neo4j query language, to find more advanced patterns across all of our data. Our visualization has now been added to the dashboard here. I can also put that in a specific folder and have multiple folders to set up my data in a nice way. And now I'm going to go back to my presentation. So we have seen how easy it is to investigate the Panama Papers data. Linkurious was used by the ICIJ journalists to investigate the data, and here is some quotes from Mark Abra, the data editor at ICIJ, about the experience. She explains that the graphical user interface was really key. Sometimes when you search documents, you don't see patterns of who's connected to who. While some of the ICIJ's reporters are tech-savvy, many of them are not. But that didn't really matter because the Linkurious interface is so easy to use. And it's something very important to us because most of our customers are not data scientists, and we want to make graph data, which is inherently complex, accessible to non-technical users, like journalists. Actually, the Linkurious interface really augmented the analytical capabilities of the investigators. As Mark Abra explains, without graph visualization, seeing that would have been very labor intensive. The reality is, when we've done that before, we've missed things. a lot of reporters actually thought that Linkurious was doing magic. Once again, what's important is how easy it is to use Linkurious and how it enables the discovery of new insights in graph data, something not possible with other types of data visualization or data analysis. It's really one of the reasons which makes Linkurious and Neo4j very popular among financial crime investigation units around the world. Today, you can also see the Panama Papers data online in the ICIJ website, which is powered by the Linkurious Enterprise API. Using this website, you can search for different persons, like Jérôme Cahuzac here, who is a former Minister of Finance in France, and who has a few bank accounts of his own, which were set up with the help of Mossack Fonseca. So this data is now available via the Linkurious Enterprise API online. It's also something that all customers use to integrate the Linkurious technology into existing applications. So what is next for the ICIJ? The ICIJ is working on a knowledge center, which will combine data from different data sources, including the Panama Papers, but also Swiss leaks, Luxembourg leaks, and other investigations, together with open source data collected on the internet. So this is really going to be a master database of all things related to financial crime, and something that will help power new discoveries in the future. So that was my introduction on the Panama Papers investigation and the role that Linkurious played in that process. In addition to working with journalists, we are also working with a number of companies around the world to help them understand graph data. Our focus is really on helping non-technical users investigate graph data to make smart decisions. Our software is currently used in cybersecurity, medical research, anti-fraud, anti-terrorism, or network management. And Linkurious Enterprise is compatible with Neo4j 2.x and 3.x. Here are a few links that I suggest reading if you want to know more about the Panama Papers investigation. And these links will be available online when I publish the presentation that I've just showed you in the coming days on a website. Finally, if you want to try out Linkurious Enterprise, you can go to linkurious.us and see an online demo, or you can reach out to contact@linkurious.us to set up an evaluation with your own data. If you want to also investigate graph data, we'd be happy to help.